Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the final session in MicroLED Connect in the first day. And in this session, we're going to hear from three different market analysts or get a lot of market insights. And the first up is Ian Hendy from Hendy Consulting. And we're going to talk about, key factors in MicroLEDs. So let's hear it from Hendy. You've got the floor.
Good evening, everybody, on this winter evening. I'm very pleased to speak at this MicroLED Tech Blick event. I was asked initially to talk on displays in China specifically. And so actually I broadened that to thinking about different geographic groups within MicroLED. And the starting point to say is this is a new technology and a new game. And actually, MicroLED manages to be more global than perhaps any of the other preceding technologies have been. And to that extent, it's really fascinating to see how different governments are supporting their industries and different groupings of companies are coming together to pull off this new technology. So that's the heart of what I'm going to talk about. And hopefully, we'll get through with enough time to have some questions. Firstly, just about Hendy Consulting, I consider there to be probably 3 or 4 really good market research companies to the display industry: Omdia, DSCC, Yole, and Trendforce. And they all cover sort of factual questions on sizes of markets, pricing, capital expenditures, equipment numbers, etc. And they do a very good job of that. And I know that Eric from Yale is speaking behind me too later, so you should listen to that. Hendy Consulting, which is my small business, is organized really to provide management consulting services. So we work specifically with companies to help them make decisions to be more competitive, to enter markets, to set up partnerships or joint development agreements with the display industry. So our intent is different. As such, this is a bit of a strategy piece and not really a discussion on numbers per se, but more about the big picture of micro LED as it is now and how is it changing as it gets closer to serious commercialization. So, firstly, I'm going to admit that I am bullish on micro LED. My business has existed doing consulting for displays for 20 years, and I worked for Philips for 5 years beyond that. In those times I've seen LCD grow, OLED grow to being a major force, and basically all display markets are always pluralistic. In TVs and smartphones, there are typically at least 3 and probably up to 5 different display technologies competing, and that is how it is. So I have no bias towards OLED or MicroLED or anything else in this, other than saying having done a number of studies now in this space, strong value proposition, very bright, very high contrast, very impressive display. One. Despite the delays that have been going on, there is potential for massive cost reduction through die size, and I am going to talk about that explicitly. Large investments happening, and Yol and Eric talk about at least 8 billion. I think it's maybe heading towards through the 10 billion level at the moment. But also, what I think is important is 2 majors. So both Apple and Samsung choosing to push it forward. So Samsung Electronics and Apple pushing forward on the technology. And I really do believe that there's been strong forward movement in the last 3 or 4 years, akin to when just before OLED happened. We all know that there are delays before the commercialization happens. These things sometimes get pushed further out, but you want to look at the sub elements of the technology stack that are being solved. That I actually do think that MicroLED is making good progress. And then what you'd really like to have is a couple of incumbent spaces where MicroLED could be distinctly better. And I think the outdoor use for watch in particular, and some of the use for signage, which is typically above the sizes that OLED and LCD do well on, means that you've got easier markets to start where you're competing less, and then you can move into more mainstream markets. So I'm relatively upbeat. And the discussion I want to have here, really, and I'm sure people can download the slides later, is just really the geographic groupings. I would have said in the last 5 years, Taiwan is probably the best positioned with a grouping of companies moving micro LED forward. And I think that's because it's an imperative. The 2 major display firms haven't got the money to spend on OLED. And so pulling off MicroLED is something that's very important to them.